Today brings you a report on the ongoing work at Petaquilla Gold Mines. You will get to know the Molejon plant, the control room operator, and all of the processes of this majestic venture. Petaquilla Gold is located in the Donoso district of the province of Colon, some 100 kilometers west of Panama City and 40 kilometers from the Caribbean coast. The road to get to Petaquilla Gold starts in Penonomé, and once you've passed the township of La Pintada, you arrive at the access road to the mine. The view is breathtaking. Nature is the foremost player of this experience. The road is in good repair and we needed only an hour and a half to arrive. Upon arrival, we had to attend a rigorous and yet necessary safety briefing in order to be aware of the safety regulations and processes in place at the Molejon mining plant. The Molejon project has just completed its first production process from this gold deposit and has produced some 2,200 tons of minerals per day.
Rafael Eiseric Alzamora, Vicepresidente de Ingeniería.
This is Rafael Eiseric Alzamora, Vice President of Engineering, Planning and Design for Petaquilla Gold. We are standing at the lookout point of Petaquilla Gold's Molejon Gold Mine. Behind me, you can see the facilities operated by the company, as well as all of the design, planning, construction and operation of a modern advanced technology mine, at which there is a permanent balance between the environment, the human settlements, and the technologies that we use for processing minerals. We have divided the extraction area, where we now stand, into 3 areas, and we are in the open pit area because the minerals have been found at the surface, and therefore we've had to extract them where we found them. Then we have the second section, which is the mineral processing plant, and then we have the tailings dam, where we store the residue that is left over from each of the manufacturing processes. Protecting the environment, in addition to being an indispensable activity for economic growth and well-being, also acts as a development engine because of the considerable management effort, the technological advances and investment that protecting the environment demand. Therefore, in order to exploit any natural resource, there will be an impact, but in order to minimize and eliminate these impacts, the environmental function must be developed as a specific activity, integrated into and interrelated with all of the other activities within the operational organization of companies that exploit resources. We can tell the neighboring communities and the entire country that we are a responsible company, that we are a company that has planned each of the operations from the exploration stage, the planning stage, the design of the plant, based on metallurgical studies of the area, in order to offer a process that includes the highest quality standards and at the same time protecting the environment. This means that the company has made efforts to have a technologically advanced, computerized process. Our plant is fully automatic, and that includes controls that allow us to minimize the risks of any human activity. The development model we employ at this company, much like our commitment to corporate social responsibility, is based on the balance between the environment, the development of neighboring communities, and technological development. This means that within the vision of the company, we include hiring the highest possible percentage of Panamanian employees. In this case, we have a staff that is 95% Panamanian, and of that percentage, 97% are from the communities close to our project. This also means that we have to bring in foreign employees who are highly experienced in this field that become our trainers so that we can, in future, undertake 100% of the operations of the company. In order to release the gold metal, it is necessary to reduce the size of the particles of the mineral down to a grading of 80% smaller than 75 microns, and this is achieved at the grinding stage. The already processed pulp passes through the detoxification stage with the purpose of destroying the cyanide. This is an activity that carries very high financial risk because it represents long-term investments which are often made and are subject to the considerable fluctuations of the price of the mining product. Based on geological explorations, a mineral extraction area is identified. In Petaquilla Gold's case, the mineral is at the surface, and so it is called an open pit. The open pit is built in successive levels, laterally and horizontally. As we dig down at the mine, it is necessary to widen the pit in order to maintain the stability of the walls. Thus, we create a sort of tiered amphitheater with sloped roads especially designed for the passage of the heavy equipment, which changes as the exploitation progresses.
Ustedes podrán observar en el proyecto.
As you can see at the mine, we have been allowed to work upon 100 hectares, and the open pit, along with the tailing pit, is a smaller area than that. This is so because we have structured the growth of the size of the plant based on our needs. As you can see, the open pit is not built all at once. It is built in a tiered fashion in order not to affect the environment directly. This allows us the use of smaller areas as well as the optimization of our processes guaranteeing water recycling, which is one of the operations that we are carrying out. In the tailing pits that you see in the background, a series of chemical processes are performed that make it possible for us to recycle the water back to the plant, and that way we ensure that we do not use any river water, and along with the pit water we also recycle all of the rainwater we collect into the process. And this allows us to use the smallest area of the allotted acreage, and this guarantees the smallest possible impact on the environment. The Molejon plant runs many complex operations, and this means strict controls of all areas must be in place. We are standing in the control room of the Molejon Gold plant, which is where all of the operations of the plant are run. As you can see, there are several screens that are linked to the entire production system of the plant. We have a fully computerized system which allows us to start up, shut down, move or speed up any of the motors. Well, all of the necessary operations are controlled from this room where we are standing. This is also the place where all of the daily information flows to, starting with the laboratory analyses as well as the controls used on an hourly basis of the processes at our metallurgical laboratory. So this means that this is where all the decisions concerning adjustments to our processes are made by our personnel at the control panel, and this makes for a series of optimum processes at the Molejon Gold plant. At each stage of the process, we have level sensors that detect the height of all of the liquids, the speed of the equipment. We have sensors for cyanide acid in order to detect its presence in any of the plant's operations. We also have pH measurement. As you can see, we have all of the necessary instruments for the complete control of the plant's processes. In addition, we also control all levels of security from here by using, as you can see in the background, real-time cameras that allow us to monitor each one of the plants as well as the efficiency of each one of the stages in the production process. The control room is operated by a young man from the town of Coclecito. My name is Jose Eliezer Castillo, and I work here as an operator in the control room. My job is to start up or shut down any motors or maybe a conveyor belt and watch the levels of all of the tanks. It could be CIP, the leaching process, the grinding area, anything that has to do with the liquids. I like this job and I like learning it. But where I have to be careful is when I start up or shut down any motors, because it's important not only for me, but for all of my co-workers who are out in the field. As the engineer just said, I am the eyes of the shift supervisor as well as the eyes of all of the co-workers in the work area. All of the responsibilities that this young man has in his hands are surprising. The open pit extraction process follows these steps. Borings. The borings in the bed must be made at regular intervals. generally between 8 and 12 meters apart, in order for them to perforate the entirety of the bed and then insert the explosive mixtures and have the blast fragment the rock. In order to perform the borings, large electrical rotating boring equipment is used that is equipped with carbon tungsten bits that allow for a borehole of up to 15 meters long to be drilled in just a few minutes. In each of the boreholes loaded with the explosive, an electrical blasting cap is inserted, which is triggered by remote control, and a sequence is established in order to ensure that the rock is fragmented in stages, starting from the exposed face of the bed inward, with time spaces of fractions of a second between blasts. The product we obtain is the mineralized rock, now fragmented into sizes that allow for its loading and transport by articulated trucks, for the feeding into the primary grinder, where the inline size reduction process begins until the material arrives at the processing plant. One of the services that the Molejon plant has is an ambulance service, as well as a helicopter. These are used to respond to emergencies for our associates, as well as for the residents of villages nearby Petaquilla. The Molejon project has a grinding plant that is divided into 3 stages: primary, secondary, and tertiary grinding, and each has a qualifying stage that allows for a homogeneous fine ore which is 100% smaller than half an inch. The grinding process starts when the material that comes up from the open pit is transported by truck up to the storage yard, which is where any material that contains the mineral is stored and then mixed in order to guarantee that a mineral content arrives at the processing plant that shows no variations in its cut-off grade. At this stage of the process, we find ourselves at the grinding system. At Petaquilla Gold, we have 3 ball mills which are designed to reduce the size of the particles from a 1/4 inch down to 3/8 of an inch, for further reduction down to 74 microns. According to the metallurgical studies, this is the size that allows for the extraction of up to 90% of the gold found in the samples. At this stage, we also add the sodium cyanide, the chemical substance used to extract the gold. This is also important because, as of this moment, the interaction time between the sodium cyanide and the gold and silver residence time begins to run. As you can see in the film, there are no personnel in this area except for the area supervisor, who verifies all of the necessary operations. In addition, we have local stations in order to operate the mill when necessary or to perform scheduled maintenance. We can monitor and control all of the operations of the ball mill from the control room, including mill startup, mill stoppages, because this system is fully computerized and operated from the control room. Starting at the first stages of primary, secondary, and tertiary grindings, the size of the larger fragments of mineralized material that comes from the mine's open pit is reduced until we obtain a uniform size of no more than half an inch, which is then transferred to the feeder hoppers. Petaquilla Gold's Molejon plant also has a wet grinding system for mineral size reduction down to a grade that allows for the proper separation of the rock's materials. All of this machinery requires considerable maintenance for its proper operation. I am the maintenance planner for the Petaquilla Gold plant, and I'm in charge of maintenance for the equipment and all of its operations. As far as the maintenance of the cyanide preparation pump area, this is a place where we take great precautions and we perform controls for the work processes necessary before the activity is carried out. Each employee must read the work procedure in order to be sure of what tasks must be performed, while all of this is overseen by risk prevention personnel, paramedics with their ambulance in the area in the event of any unforeseen situations. Edgar tells us about the warehouses behind him. Behind me, you can see the cyanide warehouses, and as you can see, this is a restricted area for non-authorized personnel. Certain safety procedures must be observed in order to enter this area. Here we find the cyanide briquettes, which are stored inside wooden containers and plastic bags. As you can see, at this time, I'm very close to the storage warehouse that contains the chemical, and I am not at any risk of poisoning nor any ill effects to my health, because this is a product that is not dangerous when handled correctly. And at this time, we have personnel who have been trained in the correct way to handle this chemical. Petaquilla Gold is committed to the correct use of the cyanide, and every day greater control is exercised over this powerful chemical. Doc, you left a small detail out. This dog called Cianura, she guards the cyanide warehouse, and on top of that, she's pregnant and she has suffered no harm whatsoever, even though she lives right next to the cyanide warehouse. When the dogs around the plant detect that a dog inside the plant is in heat, they all come right over here, and when they get a taste of the restaurant we have inside the plant, they never want to leave. And that's why you see some very healthy dogs at this plant. Petaquilla Gold has the services of the best experts in order to certify true compliance with all of the safety measures. Hi, my name is Leonel Silva, and I am the mining engineer. I work at Petaquilla Gold as Vice President for Work and Risk Prevention. Mr. Silva explains about the tailing ponds. Behind me, I have tailing pond number 1. Behind that is the initial pond, known as pond number 2. Why and to what end are the tailing ponds used? Once the mineral has been processed, we extract the massive gold, we detoxify the pulp, and what's left is known as the tailing, and it passes in a 70-30 ratio, 70% solids and 30% water into the tailing ponds, which are nothing more than an environmental system for waste management. This environmental management allows us to recycle the water and decant the solids, and thus we reuse the water, and we don't affect the aquifers, nor do we use any wells or any river water for our mining process. The Petaquilla Molejon plant tailing ponds are areas close to the facilities that have been designed to hold the detoxified pulp in an environmentally safe manner. These ponds or pools have an impermeable lining which prevents direct contact between the stored material and the ground below. There are 3 tailing ponds which are fitted to hold all of the material the plant will produce during its years of operation. The water in the ponds is recovered by a pumping system that will place it in the recovered water tanks so that it can be used in the operation. All of these processes are verified by the plant laboratories at the Molejon plant. We are now at the metallurgical laboratory at Petaquilla Gold. In this lab, we perform all of the necessary tests for the control of the processes at the plant. Here we can find from cut-off grade tests in order to determine the status of the plant's processes, as well as solid percentages, pH, well, all of the information and the parameters to adequately control the process. The personnel at this lab performs tests tests on an hourly basis to determine the operational conditions and also to make adjustments whenever necessary. This guarantees that we have sufficient information for decision-making in the control of the process and the operations at the Petaquilla Gold Mine in Donoso, Colon. This is the chemical analysis laboratory where our technician is performing gold and silver analysis using a Perkin-Elmer spectrophotometer. And this test will allow us to know, monitor and account for the amount of gold that enters the manufacturing process and what is extracted for future productions. It is from here that we monitor gold coming in, gold going out, and the amounts of gold and silver produced at the Molejon plant. Another one of the areas of vital importance is the ADR area.
Buenas, mi nombre es Jaime Ortiz.
Hi, my name is Jaime Ortiz, and I'm in charge of the ADR area. This area of the plant is the final portion of the entire process. After all the stages the mineral has passed through, grinding, leaching, and so on, this is the area where we recover the mineral by using a special process. We recover the gold. In this area, safety measures are very strict because, well, we're working with very high temperatures, pressure, highly acidic fluids, and inside the electrolytic cell, there is very high energy.
En la celda electrolítica tenemos alta potencia energética.
We came to do a report on the mines, and luckily we had nice weather. And so you can see the landscape in the sunset hasn't been destroyed like some believe it has. We have seen many lives at risk, but during each production stage, great emphasis is placed on the work safety of each of the employees. Petaquilla Gold, a homemade company for the benefit of all Panamanians.